Welcome back to the Shabbat Treasures series. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast, and I'm here together with my co-host,
Rabbi Samuel Ross, and we are delighted to be able to share a weekly idea that you can take into your Shabbos and upgrade and beautify immediately. Enjoy. Let's start from the following two or three scenarios. First, possibly be something wrong with removing the nuts, which obviously I don't want when they're around chocolate, from my bowl of chocolate and nuts. I mean, normally I like nuts, but now there's chocolate in the same bowl. Could there possibly be anything wrong?
I think it's how you separate it.
Oh, wow. So Darren's already ahead of the game here. He's telling us there's a problem of separation. He's trying to give us solutions. Darren's doing really, really well over here. Okay. So anyone else?
I'm just thinking from a kosher point of view, but not necessarily a Shabbat point of view. But you could get like milk on the nuts, and then you might think that they pareve, and then you have serve them with a meaty meal or whatever. But I can't think of.
Good, Hayden. We'll come back to that in a minute. And as we welcome Richard to our show this evening.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No problem at all. So we're discussing. It's great having you with us. We are discussing our bowl of chocolate and nuts. Now, normally we like nuts or fruit, but not when it's with chocolate. So could there be an issue with removing the nuts from the chocolate? That's what we're looking at right now. Okay, so we've had Darren that possibly he's telling us there's something sorting. Maybe there are right ways of doing it. Okay, we will see soon. I'm going to give you a second scenario. And this is actually a really, really tricky one. And we may not even answer this tonight, maybe next week. Let's assume that there is something what Darren was saying about sorting being a potential issue. Okay, so we've got some of Gila's delicious sticky salmon. Or I don't know if some of you or your spouses or make the most delicious Moroccan salmon in some other places. And as you're eating it, you discover that there is a bone inside your piece of salmon. How are we going to get our bone out of the piece of salmon? It's annoying me. I want the fresh, well, not so fresh anymore, but you know, the salmon. I've got my annoying bone over there.
Separate the piece.
Okay, so Maddie again is doing what Darren was doing, which is she's already thinking out the game. It seems that some of you have inside information. There might be an issue with separating and sorting, and she's trying to give us a solution. Hang on a few. Third case, and before I get to the third one, let me already give you a bit of a head start, a bit of a principle, and then we'll look at the third one. As I was hinting earlier, one of the 39 forbidden types of work is called boreh, sorting. So everything we are going to deal with tonight, and definitely next week, definitely is going to be dealing with laws of sorting. Again, we'll see exactly what sorting means. It was done in the Mishkan, it was done in the tabernacle, whatever that word happens to mean. That after they threshed, they had a mixed collection of waste with good and bad, the kernels, and they used to sort it and remove it by hand. Okay, so we have a potential issue, a biblical issue, one of the 39 types of work of separating, of sorting. So again, that's why we're looking at the nuts and the chocolates, the bones from the salmon. Well, I haven't given any answers yet. But let's assume that there is an issue, Hayden. Let's assume it's not just a potential kosher issue of the milk. Let's assume there's a Shabbos issue of this mixture, okay? So I want to make this really extreme. We are sitting in our dining room, and you get served up your delicious rotisserie style chicken together with, I don't know, it's some vegetables on the plate. And as good as they are, you just don't fancy those vegetables. You want the rotisserie chicken. But am I allowed to take the chicken to the plate? Is that not a mixture? Am I not sorting? Like, how far does this stuff go? Let me go back a stage. Principle is we can't sort on Shabbos. That's the usual principle. And it's not like, I'm giving you some Kabbalistic stringency that no one's ever heard of before. Of the most significant types of Shabbat, let's call it restrictions, obligations, is to select, let's go like this, the bad from the good. Well, in a minute we'll discuss what Darren was speaking about the good, but the bad from the good. So we're going to look at our two cases. We're going to look at the chocolate with the nuts, where I want the chocolate, and we're going to contrast that with my dinner plate, where I have chicken and then I have vegetables. So it appears that it's going to be a problem to take the nuts and the fruit away from the chocolate, because we all know we want the chocolate. So what about my dinner plate that has rotisserie chicken and delicious vegetables? I'm just not interested in them because they're green.
Can you just simply remove the chicken and put it on another plate, and then you're not really sorting
You
anything?
could do that. Yeah, Darren, you could do that. But what I'm asking is, would it actually be a problem to remove the chicken from the plate? I don't fancy the broccoli. Okay, broccoli might be a problem with bugs. I don't fancy the carrots right now. Can I take the chicken away? We've established you can't take the nuts from the chocolate. Can I take the...
Yes, because it's a separate entity.
Yeah.
It's not blended together.
Oh,
Correct. That's what I would say.
Okay, so Darren and Hayden are giving us a huge principle that we're going to see in a couple of minutes, which is, before we start discussing a problem, this is why I contrasted it. So Maddie, before we start discussing what the issue is, you should know it has to be a mixture. If something's not a mixture, it's like this. You have to have a mixture of two types. For there to be a potential issue, Andrew, for there to be a potential issue, you have to have a mixture of two types. Now, we could discuss what the mixture is, what the two types are, but if you don't have a mixture of two types, then this doesn't apply. There's nothing to talk about, okay? So let's go back to our two examples. My chocolate and my nuts, is that a mixture? Yeah, Bev's not.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a mixture.
it's all in the same bowl.
Sorry?
It's all in the same bowl, of course.
It's in the same bowl. It's a mixture. Absolutely, it's in the same bowl. Is it two types?
Can't you put it onto your own plate and then select what you want once it's on your plate?
Okay, so again, Bev is, you're being very smart. You're doing what your sister did and what Darren did before. You're trying to give us a solution, which we're going to come to in a couple of minutes. Let's first deal with, I'm just like sort of 2 or 3 stages behind. I'm not as smart as you are. Let's deal with the issue, and then we'll get to the exceptions to the rule. Once something is a mixture, you could have a problem, but it's only a problem if it's two types. Okay, so is chocolate and dried fruit two types?
Yeah.
Yes.
Clearly. So when it comes to our bowl of chocolate and raisins, I have a mixture of two types. That is a problem. We haven't yet discussed how we can do it. We'll discuss that in a couple of minutes, but it's potentially a problem. When I have my plate of chicken and somewhere on the same plate, I've got my steamed, I don't know, green beans that I've never seen before and I never want to see again. Is that called a mixture of two types?
Not if they're separate.
No.
They're separate. They're not called two types. Absolutely. So that's why I'm giving you as a contrast. It's not a problem to take, to take the chicken away from the, or even again, the issue is to take the bad from the good. I could get rid of my green beans because it's not a mixture, but I can't take the bad, which in this case is the dried raisins, away from the chocolate because that is a mixture. Okay, so right now we haven't discussed how to do it. All we've established is that when you have a mixture of two types, it is a potential problem. Okay.
Is it like when you've got certain things like in a mixture of a salad? Like say I came to your house and there was a salad with loads of stuffing, but I only wanted certain bits of it.
Excellent example. So that would be a mixture of types. So now it would potentially be an issue for me to start taking, the bad. Again, it's always the bad from the good. Let me give you some other examples of a mixture of two types, just to establish this. Peanuts with raisins. Okay, that's similar to our example of chocolate with raisins, I guess. Now, this is going to be one that's some of you are not going to want to hear. Some of you actually may want to hear. An assortment of laundry in a basket. If you haven't done laundry, I'm not talking about the washing machine part. I'm talking about it's clean and dry in the laundry basket or in a pile. And you want to get the sock that's in the middle of it or underneath it or to start rummaging through it, that is sorting. I told you, some of you aren't going to hear that. You are.
You're not going to sort it. You're going to make it a mess just to find what you want.
But again, Maddie, I think it depends how you do it. The way that I or my kids would do it probably would be to make a mess. But there are people who've got much more dainty hands, and the way that they're going to go through it, they're absolutely sorting it. Not even a question. I think it depends on how you function. So okay, so we've done our peanuts, raisins, our assortment laundry in a basket. We've discussed earlier bones in fish, as Darren used the word before about embedded. Bones are embedded into fish. Seeds in a watermelon. That is a mix of two types. You're probably beginning to sense that everything we're doing in our kitchen on Shabbat is a problem. I haven't yet told you how you can do this stuff. Give me a few minutes. There is almost not, I was going to say nothing. That's not true. There is, like by muksa, we worked out there is almost nothing that you can't get around. You can use your foot. And when it comes to this stuff, there are things that there is no way out of, but most things I'm going to be able to find you a solution for.
Thanks.
Melon is a problem with the things. Next one. You're going to love this. Your kids are going to hate this. Wrappers stuck to a candy. That is embedded to... Yeah. You heard it, Darren? The next one is the most bizarre one. You think the laundry one was, you're going to think, my goodness, you're going to take this away from me too? Grapes with their stems.
No.
A mixture of two types. There is no more classical example of a grape on its stem.
Is it just a case of being more organised and just getting everything done before Shabbat?
So Bev, you're good. You're planning ahead and thinking, you're going to see, give me, right now at 9:16, give me to about 9:18 or 9:20 and I'll start telling you how to do this stuff. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to crystallize examples of where this issue exists, where you would never have thought there could have been an issue. You can't separate a mixture. It's up there with cooking. You know, some people would, let's say for argument, I wouldn't get in a car. Well, if you wouldn't get in a car or whatever it is, then, you know, or use a phone, again, it doesn't matter. It's not the point of what you would or wouldn't do. Sorting a mixture is exactly the same. You know, if you think about it, in theory, pulling the stem from the grape is the same biblical violation as as whatever else it is. It's turning the oven on. It's the same thing. It's a different one of the 39. Okay, so I've given you some examples. I've given you some examples of what these look like. Okay. Now let me give you some examples that are not considered mixed, just to give you a contrast. I'm going to tell you how, when they are mixed, how you can deal with them. Okay. So when these are not considered mixed, so we saw earlier, if you've got two things on a plate, that's not mixed. You know, I've got chicken and I've got green beans. They're not mixed. But I'll give you other examples. Apples and tangerines scattered on a table. That's not mixed. Cutlery, which is spread around the table, that's not mixed. However, cutlery on a draining board would be mixed. Can't take cutlery from a draining board. It's mixed.
So if the fruit was in a bowl, that would be mixed in a fruit bowl.
Probably. Yeah. Again,
Why can't you take it from a drainer, but you could take it from mix on a table? Cutlery.
When something is mixed, that is the biblical violation of Shabbos of sorting. When two things or three things are mixed in a thing. That is the problem. Just like cooking is the oven, and
but the knives and forks and spoons on a table could all be mixed.
I'm telling you, no one would ever think of this. It's pure out biblical violation of Shabbos. People who've got the best intentions in the world have absolutely no clue, but it is. People who are religious their entire life have never even thought about this. And the bizarre thing is, I can get you out of this problem with the thing which I'm going to tell you about now.
Please tell.
Okay, so this is the story. The problem of sorting on Shabbos, and I told you we're going to do a part B with examples next week. But the problem of sorting is a mixture of two types, which means if it's not a mixture, it's not two types, you don't have a problem. Okay, so now we are going to see how can I get out of my mixture with two types. So there are 3 criteria that make it okay. Number 1 is if you use your hand instead of using an implement. Number 2, if you take the good from the bad. And number 3, if you use it for immediate use. By hand, as let's say opposed to a sieve or something like that. If I use my hand, it's okay. The good from the bad. So let's go back to, again, we'll use examples in a minute, but go back to any example you want. Once you're taking good from the bad, you're using your hand and it's for immediate use, you are okay.
So you could take the chocolate from the fruit and just take the chocolate.
Yeah, you can use your hand to take the chocolate from the fruit
and then eat it right away.
Straight away.
Right.
It's that simple. It's that simple. There are many other ways to deal with it as well, which I'm going to tell you now. We're going to work out how to deal with the cutlery also. Like when you come to my house on Shabbos, we lay the table. We can't lay it at 6 o'clock in the morning. But we can start laying it, let's say, at about 10:30, 11, if let's say our cutlery is mixed. It's a normal, you don't have to do it 5 minutes before people get there. But as long as you use your hand and it's the good from the bad and it's done immediately, you're okay. If you can't do that, there are other ways to get out of the problem. And I'll tell you what they are. You can always scatter things out of them being a mixture. So let's say your cutlery. Paddy was bringing this up. I get my cutlery and I scatter it across the table. It's not a mixture anymore. Let's say I want to lay my table. I want to get something out of the mixture. I get my cutlery, I scatter it across the table, and I'm okay. The problem is only when it's inside a mixture of two types. Okay, let's look at another example. We'll see another exception to the rule. Okay, I'm not going to deal with the fish and the bone tonight because that's too hard. And I'm not sure that's the real way out of that. Yes, Richard.
Sorry to interrupt. When you say it's not a mixture, do you mean inside another kind of vessel or something like that? Is that what you're saying? I'm just struggling.
Not necessarily. If you had on your table 20 books piled high, now I'm using the example of books. I'm getting worse and more. I'm like a fanatic here. You got a pile of 20 books. That's a mixture. It's in a vessel. I've got 10 things of papers that have fallen out of a book, and I start going through them, putting them somewhere. I've gone through a mixture.
Yeah, but if you scatter them on the table, why is that different to...
I know, I've scattered them out. They're no longer a mixture.
Oh, I see.
I've got my thing of cutlery, and now I've got knives there, and it's not a mixture anymore. If you remove it from being a mixture, you're okay. You can do that in most cases. You can't, let's say you had a mixture of different types of cream cakes. Let's say a coffee cream cake and a chocolate one, which let's say for argument's sake is two types. Let's say, which it probably is. So I wouldn't start scattering that because they're going to go everywhere. But you can do this with most things. You scatter your books, you scatter your cutlery, you scatter whatever it is. You can push the fruit aside, whatever it is. Again, simplest is you straight away take the good from the bad with your hand, and you're good. Again, I'll send this to you.
If you scatter, would you have to scatter before Shabbos?
No, on Shabbos. You can scatter on Shabbos.
But aren't you technically then starting to sort by scattering?
No, not at all. I've just thrown things, you know. I've thrown my laundry all over the floor. Now let my kids go pick the laundry up. It's not a mixture anymore. No, sorry, guys, you thought you could after Shabbos to do the laundry. I got you a solution. Okay, so I'm going to give you one other exception, and I'll give you an example for this. Okay, so let's use the example of the melon. I've got my horrible pits inside it. How do I eat my melon? It's full of pits. Okay, this is a way, again, you can apply this to anything. What you do is, because so now I can't scatter it, and it's very hard for me to take the good from the bad. The bad is everywhere.
Can you wash it? Just rinse it under the tap.
You cut away some of the good with the bad. The problem is to take the bad from the good. So if you take a little bit of the good with it, then
so like scoop the tap away.
Yeah, scoop a bit of the melon flesh with it, and then you're okay. You don't even have to throw the melon out, because now I've got the rest of my melon, but that little bit that in theory was part of the bad, I can now cut that from the good. So let me finish with the following. My grape with a stem, which is 2 types in the mixture. How do I eat my grape from my stem?
You can separate it with your hands and eat it straight away.
You take the good from the bad. It's true that it's a mixture of 2 types. It's not a big deal. You take the grape from the stem with your hand and you eat it. As simple as that.
So is that the law? Do you have to eat it straight away?
Basically, yeah. What exactly straight away means, I'm saying it's somewhat subjective. Meaning I don't have to lay the table 5 minutes before you show up. But I can't do it 4 hours before you show up. And it is somewhat subjective what straight away means. I give that to you, and they write about that.
Do you have to eat it, or can you separate it for somebody else?
Somebody else is fine, again, as long as for them it's the good. Yeah. So that'll be fine as well. Anyway, wrappers, I'm afraid to say that those of you who thought the wrapper stuck to a candy, that's it with candies, it actually isn't. Another exception to the rule is something that's a peel is okay. For reasons beyond the discussion tonight, a peel you can get rid of. You can take a peel off an orange, even though it's a mixture. You can take a wrapper off a candy, etc., etc. For reasons way beyond the scope of where we are, you're allowed to do that. So again, this is what we've seen. A mixture of 2 types, no good. The way to deal with the problem is good from the bad with your hand straight away. Good from the bad with your hand straight away. Or if it's something that has a peel, peel it, or take a bit of the good with the bad. Or what was the other example we used? I'm going blank. Oh, or scatter it.
Or scatter, yeah.
Or scatter it. Any questions? Excellent. So I'll ask you a question. What is the problem of sorting on Shabbos? Under what major circumstance?
Well, by sorting, you're working, aren't you?
You're sorting what? Sorting what in particular?
Food.
Or it could actually be anything, but it's a mixture of 2 types. Has to be a mixture as opposed to 2 things sitting on your plate. It has to be 2 types. That is the only potential problem, a mixture of 2 types. What are the 3 conditions to get around the problem?
Use your hands.
Hands.
Eat
Eat the
straight away.
good from the bad.
Good from the bad and
Scatter.
immediately. Scatter is a separate way to deal with it. Very good. Separate way to deal with it. So good from the bad, immediately and with your hands, you're always okay. Or you could scatter it, or you could take a little bit of the good with the bad. Okay, I've got to tell you that this is of the most complex parts of Jewish law, definitely laws of Shabbos. I think we've done a very good job tonight. I think we've crystallized it. Next week, we're going to give you lots of real examples and real life examples, and we'll apply these principles, and it will all become even clearer.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. You can get in touch with me. You can find me on Instagram. It's Gila Ross. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Thank you and have a wonderful day.